Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. First, my opening statement. Now, which America is it that you see? It's real simple, and it's not about your eyesight.
Our convention occurs at a moment of crisis for our nation. The attacks on our police and the terrorism of our cities threaten our very way of life. Any politician who does not grasp this danger is not fit to lead our country.
And within hours, our president, as he stood with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, comes out and says this.
This vision of violence and chaos everywhere doesn't really jibe with the experience of most people.
Strangely injecting himself into a presidential race, the president actually said Donald Trump's vision of America was wrong and says there's much less violence in America than 20 or 30 years ago. Now, I don't want to rain on your parade, Mr. President, but the number of firearms in the United States has doubled in the last 20 years. Maybe that's what's actually making us less violent. But I digress. And in a manner reminiscent of his reaction to the beheading of Americans, the president nonchalantly concedes, well, there might be an uptick in murders. Really? We are seeing enormous homicide increases in large cities like Milwaukee, Denver, Baltimore, St. Louis, Cleveland, Las Vegas, and even his own hometown of Chicago, where kids are so used to the report of a gun that they don't even run when they hear gunfire. So let me see if I get this straight. An uptick or a rise in murders shouldn't worry me because violent crime is not on the rise. So if I'm murdered, I should thank God that my home wasn't burglarized? The president continues to paint a picture of birds chirping and children playing Ring Around the Rosie as Donald Trump recounts children murdered by criminal illegal aliens.
Nearly 180,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records ordered deported from our country are tonight roaming free to threaten peaceful citizens. No more. One more child to sacrifice on the order and on the altar of open borders.
But Obama says immigration is much less a problem than how Donald Trump describes it.
The rate of illegal migration into the United States today is lower by 2/3 than it was when Ronald Reagan was president. We have far fewer undocumented workers crossing the border today than we did in the 80s or the 90s or when George Bush was president. That's a fact.
So the president disagrees with what Donald said also. Probably because pursuant to his policies, illegals with criminal records have been released from prison. But the president says that immigration is much less a problem than it was just 20 or 30 years ago. He says the rate of illegal immigration into the United States today is lower by 2/3 than it was when Ronald Reagan was president. He says it's a fact that we have far fewer undocumented workers crossing the border today than we did in the 80s or 90s. Really, Mr. President, with all due respect, how do you know? You've got Border Patrol agents changing kids' diapers during a mass influx from Central America. Agents whose hands are tied, which might explain why the National Border Patrol Council endorsed Donald Trump and not your protege. And by the way, how does one measure the number of illegals who cross our border? The ones who aren't caught can't be counted. So if the numbers are determined by those apprehended by Border Patrol, your policies and executive actions more than welcome them. You even give them a free plane ride into our towns, any town, USA. But even the United States Supreme Court had to block you when you tried to prevent the legal deportation of 4 million of them. And if the number is decided by those living here, again, how do you know? You're the one who keeps telling us that they're living in the shadows, so how are you counting them? But does Barack Obama even matter as we enter the general election period? It's really about Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine, or Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Now, Hillary would make history as the first female president. Hillary Clinton promotes herself as an advocate for women and children, as a doer, as an experienced candidate. But Ivanka Trump made quite a different case.
At my father's company, there are more female than male executives. Women are paid equally for the work that we do. My father will change the labor laws that were put in place at a time when women were not a significant portion of the workforce. And he will focus on making quality childcare affordable and accessible for all.
The facts. In Hillary Clinton's family's foundation, women are not paid equally. In fact, they're paid 83 cents on the dollar that men make. And speaking of her foundation, she is notorious for taking money from countries where men have the legal right to beat their wives, where homosexual acts are punishable by death, where women are stoned for adultery. And so why is this self-proclaimed advocate for women taking the money from these countries, and what do they get in return? The true facts? While a member of the United States Senate, Hillary Clinton sponsored 363 bills. Of those, 3 became law. 3. One was a bill to name a post office. Another was a bill to rename a highway. Every bill that she sponsored for the betterment of women, for which there was always a tremendous amount of press, every one of them died. Take a look. Some effective legislator, ain't she? And that's a woman coming right out of the White House. But we should all applaud one of her successes. And that success? Senate Resolution 511 from the 109th Congress, commending and supporting Al Mahiba, the first and only radio station for the women of Iraq. Think her foundation got a check from anyone over there? And as to Tim Kaine, the man who received $160,000 worth of vacations, clothes, tickets, while his successor, Governor Bob McDonnell, in the same state of Virginia, gets indicted and convicted of graft for gifts of $175,000, which conviction was overturned by the United States Supreme Court. I told you this before. The rules are different. The candidates have exact opposite opinions and positions. Someone is lying and someone is telling the truth. You've got a couple months to figure it out. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And with me now for reaction to my open and all the breaking news today, CPAC Chairman and Republican strategist Matt Schlapp and former aide to Democratic Senator Charles Schumer, Chris Hahn. Okay, guys, let's talk about the fact that we've got this guy, Tim Kaine. All right. Now, Tim Kaine is from a swing state. I get it. Smart move. More of a swing state than Mike Pence is from in terms of the election. But at the same time, Hillary is, I think, in bad shape. You've got the Bernie Sanders supporters who are now getting an idea of what's going on with WikiLeaks. And then she picks a VP who is far right, you know, talks about second-term abortions or third trimester abortions, TPP, drilling. This guy is more Republican than most Republicans.
Careful, Judge. In a couple of weeks, you're going to be calling them wishy-washy liberals, so you might want to take that back and calm down on that one.
You calm down and answer the question.
Well, look, I like Tim Kaine. He wasn't my first choice. I was the only person in America calling for John Hickenlooper.
Why not? Chris?
Well, I like John Hickenlooper from Colorado.
No. I don't care about Hickenlooper. Why? What don't you like about Tim Kaine?
No, I like Tim Kaine a lot. I just think he's not a very exciting person. And I think when you're a VP candidate, your first job is to not harm the candidate. I don't see any way he's going to harm her. Plus, the fact that he speaks fluent Spanish and could go on the Sunday shows on Univision and other Spanish-speaking stations is a big plus for Hillary Clinton. He's going to be a very good person once he becomes vice president. He's going to be a going to do a good job governing.
What was that, Judge?
What's your take on Tim?
I actually think he's a reliable liberal. He has a 0 congressional rating in our ACU ratings. I think as a governor of Virginia, you're right, he's been pretty moderate. But as a senator, he's been left-wing. But you know what's funny, Judge? He doesn't really get any credit because no one really knows him. And even in the state of Virginia, he has sub 50% approval ratings. He's at 43% approval in Virginia.
Too. He's underwater, Chris, in his own home state.
Yeah, I mean, that goes for the vice president on the other side, too. But that said, I think Tim Kaine is going to bring out the vote in Virginia. That said, and I said to Matt on Twitter a little while ago, that Virginia hasn't really been a swing state, and I don't expect it to be a swing state this year, and that's a big problem for Trump.
All right, I want to move to WikiLeaks. Now, this is a real problem. You know, right now we're finding out that in the DNC, it appears that they tried to rig the system for Hillary against Bernie. Chris, answer this question going into the convention on Monday. All of these claims of unity, I don't think they're going to ring so true. Do you?
I think it's going to be a very unified convention, and we've all worked on campaigns, all three of us. We all know passions run deep, and people want to support their candidate.
No. They're talking about, and we're talking about the DNC chief financial officer, who talks about the fact my Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist, talking about his religion. Matt, you take it from there.
Yeah, actually, they have a very serious problem here because it sounds like the chairman of the Democratic Party and the staff of the Democratic Party were actually taking steps to throw this to Hillary, which is going to abridge all kinds of internal rules at the DNC. I imagine there is, we aren't reading about it in the headlines yet, but there is warfare going on the Democratic side.
You know, I think it was mostly,
I can't help but smile, Chris. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people.
You know, it was mostly people talking back and forth on email. They didn't want a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party the way
Chris,
there was a hostile takeover of the Republican Party.
Chris, hold on a second. You cannot deny that she is very, iffy with those millennials, those Sanders millennials, and they believe that it was rigged, and they came out for her. It's not for Bernie. These are not regular voters. So now they hear that the DNC, in addition to the primary being rigged in terms of those people who are already primary, in terms of the superdelegates. Thank you. That now it looks like they're trying to turn it away from him, and they're trying to get some attention for negative attention against Bernie.
You know what, Judge? I give millennial voters a lot more credit than that. I don't think they're just for Bernie. I don't think they're just for Hillary. I think they're going to make a decision based on the issues that are important to them.
Okay. And what do you think,
Well, I think this gives Donald Trump a tremendous opening. He is an outsider. This all stinks. What happened at the DNC, they were thrown it to Hillary. You had all these superdelegates, tons of superdelegates, and they voted to keep that system. I love it when Democrats actually act like the elitists and they think Republicans are elitists. And I think it means a lot of these voters who are sick of this are going to give Donald Trump a second look. It's a great opportunity for him.
Judge, I like you both. I don't want you to get
Chris
your hopes up.
We're running up against the clock. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and with me now, one of my favorite people to battle it out with, liberal radio show host Coco Sudak. Okay, Coco, did you hear my open?
I did.
Okay. What about the fact that in her term as a United States Senator, there were only 3 bills that she sponsored that passed, this self-acclaimed, advocate for women. One was renaming a post office and the other renaming a road. What has she done for women?
She's done an enormous amount for women. First of all, she's been the first woman in... Well,
okay, that comes off her husband's coattails, Coco. Come on. The fact that she married a guy who became president doesn't mean she's an advocate for women.
She pushed that. She started the department that looked at violence against women in the Justice Department. Okay, but look, she is not only an advocate.
Are you kidding? I started the first domestic violence unit in the nation. I never heard that in my entire life.
she's an advocate for all people and women, okay? And she's done an enormous amount. She's a tremendous leader, and I think that you're going to love her as our
Besides the adjectives,
president.
why don't you give me a fact or two?
Say it again.
Besides the adjectives that she's tremendous and wonderful, give me a fact. What has she done for women?
Well,
why does she take money from countries where beating your wife and marrying children is legal?
She doesn't.
She doesn't?
She does not take money from those countries. The Clinton Foundation might take donations from people in those countries. That is a totally different thing. And
Here we
she's
go.
not responsible for that.
Coco, $25 million from Saudi Arabia, which she conveniently left off her disclosure. Come on, Coco, you know that that's the case. This is a woman who's walking around with the princes and the kings, and that money is not coming from people, it's coming from the government. Why
Honestly,
would those governments that degrade women want to give this woman money?
This woman is walking around with people who are serious about policy and about public service in this country.
And serious about putting money in her family's foundation.
But her family's foundation is a foundation with a charitable purpose and mission.
Okay, so you tell me what percentage of that
foundation
foundation goes to charities?
I don't know. I'm not looking at the 990. But it has a. But wait a minute. But it has an A rating from Charity Watch.
You know what? 15%.
It has an A rating from Charity
It's
Watch.
all for the Clinton operatives. It's for people who used to work for her, people in the campaign, travel, hotels, meals. This is one huge worldwide foundation taking care of all the ex-political operatives so she can run for president. Why do you think Qatar wants to give this woman money?
Yeah. It's definitely a collaboration among people who have worked together in public service to continue to do their good works. They fund AIDS medications in Africa.
Yeah, did you read about those AIDS medications?
They fund entrepreneurial programs. I'm just saying that you guys might paint the Clinton Foundation as something nefarious, but it is a group of people who have worked together doing good around the world.
Coco, I thought you were sharper than that. Here's the bottom line. The Clinton Foundation is a money laundering operation under the guise of a 501c3 that has violated rules not just in the United States as a not-for-profit, but around the world. It's a joke. And when Bill Clinton gets in the middle of deals where Hillary, as Secretary of State, does benefits for countries that give her foundation, her family foundation, money, then you know what? That's pay to play.
Didn't happen. I know that PolitiFact has already said all those accusations are false.
Who said that?
PolitiFact.
Coco Sudik, thanks so much. All right, and still ahead, longtime Republican insider Charlie Black is here to talk about the GOP ticket and the convention that just wrapped up. Plus, Donald, breaking tonight as Dems gather in Philadelphia this coming week, a shocking new email dump of DNC emails threatens to cast a shadow over their convention. Wikileaks posting thousands of leaked emails between top Democratic Party officials, some of which suggest the DNC favored Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. With me now, Democracy for America Communications Director and former Bernie Sanders surrogate, Neil Sroka. All right, Neil, have you read any of these emails?
Oh, yeah, I have. They're a laugh.
You think it's funny?
No, I think it is funny. Listen, I don't think anyone who was a Bernie Sanders supporter didn't know that the DNC was favoring Hillary Clinton.
And
despite that fact, we won 22 states across the country and 13 million votes.
Back up. This isn't. We're not. No, we're not going to be.
It's true.
Here, when somebody talks about another person's religion and saying that because he's a Jew, it's not going to really help him with his Southern Baptists, don't you think that's ugly?
No, I do think it's ugly. I think those staffers should be held responsible for that action.
Is that laughable?
Well, here's what I'm saying.
It's a yes or no question.
Is it a yes or no question? I'm not sure.
You're not sure if it's no. It's not laughable when we talk about someone's religion or belief in God. And when it comes from the DNC chief financial officer, not some, low-level person, we got a problem at the DNC.
Hold those people responsible for what they've said and move forward. Because at the end of the day, this election is about beating a billionaire bigot. And that's what it's going to be about in November, and that's what we're going to do.
So you have moved from Sanders to Hillary.
I am with Sanders, who is standing with Hillary Clinton. That's what I'm with.
I can't wait to see what's going on at that convention this week. Because on the one hand, she picks someone who is far more right, and then the emails come out. He never liked Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Let's not kid each other on that one. And you know what's amazing to me is that we've got people, and this is according, I believe, to Jeff Weaver, you know, who are spending days on Melania Trump, and then we've got this looking like a totally rigged, not just superdelegate system in the Dems, but the DNC, and everybody wants to say it's funny and we're all together. How's that?
We're all together because we watched the circus of hate in Cleveland this past week. There is too much at stake at this election to let these important discussions that we had during the Democratic primary get in the way of allowing Donald Trump into the White House.
You mean about her emails? How were they? What did you discuss in the Democratic primary? I mean, really, let's back up. Why did 75% of the people who listened to Donald Trump's speech, why did they find that it was a very favorable speech? That's according to CNN. It flipped them out.
You know what we discussed in the Democratic primary was how do we get to debt-free college? How do we expand Social Security rather than figuring out how to throw people out in the college? We actually talked about the issues and not this nonsense that Republicans want to talk about.
Are you of the belief that we don't have a problem with security in this country? You got any relatives in Dallas, Orlando, San Bernardino?
I believe that we've got a problem of cops killing people of color.
Really?
And we've got to figure out that challenge in the United States.
You don't think it's a problem when cops are targeted 5, 3, 1?
No, I've got a problem with that, too.
You don't have a problem with that?
I have a problem with both things. And we have to work together to figure out both problems.
No, we don't have to work together. People need to listen. When a cop tells you to surrender, you surrender. You don't fight with them. The cop, that's the first person you're going to call when you have a problem. We don't need to discuss that. But you know what, Neil? I'm amazed. You're going with Hillary after you were a Bernie supporter. I'm stunned.
And there are millions of them like me.
We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. Neil Soroka, thanks for being with us. All right, I'm riding on the back of a motorcycle in tonight's Street Justice. That's still ahead. And next, talk about an expert. This guy's been part of every GOP campaign since 1972. You're going to get Charlie Black's take on this year's ticket. Justice rolls on in a moment, but first, a look at one of my pictures from this week in Cleveland. Me and one of my favorite guests, Scott Baio, in the green room right before he made his speech. More pictures from the convention.
For the convention. So is Trump, but he's not going to have 1237. And the uncommitted delegates are largely unavailable to him because they know he cannot win the general election.
Charlie Black on Justice back in April saying Donald Trump definitively cannot beat Hillary Clinton. Has he changed his mind? Let's ask him. Joining me now, former senior advisor to Presidents Reagan and H.W. Bush and chairman of Prime Policy Group, Charlie Black. Have you changed your mind, Charlie?
Absolutely have, Judge. You know, he proved me wrong. And he has just proven this past week that he has a very good chance to win the general election with a fabulous speech at the convention that's given him great momentum going into this race.
And what about, and I really don't care about Cruz, but I mean, Kasich not even showing up for the convention. Are the establishment Republicans, I mean, is it over for them? You've got Kasich, you've got Cruz, who I think buried himself, and then you've got the Bushes who didn't show. I mean, are they, like, irrelevant right now?
Well, listen, Ted Cruz did bury himself, and he's certainly not establishment. Governor Kasich had a very principled position, but at least he did not show up and try to make a self-promoting speech.
But what was his principled position? The guy was delusional. He kept saying he was going to win. He only won his own state. And by the way, Charlie, where did he get the money to stay in that long? Who was funding him?
He didn't have any money. But listen, he didn't spend much money in those remaining primaries. But listen, he has very strong views about immigration and comprehensive reform, and he is a big free trader. And he thinks that Donald Trump might take the country in the wrong direction on those things. But not to belabor that, Donald Trump did an excellent job. Listen, I'm with him 80% of the issues. That's enough for me. I'll do everything I can to help him. Judge, can I just say one thing parenthetically, that I think this is a good time to offer both thanks and honor to Roger Ailes, who was one of the great champions of freedom in this country over the last 40 years. And not only in his indispensability to Ronald Reagan's election and George H.W. Bush's election, but the genius of providing truly balanced democratic debate in this country by the work he did for this network. So thank you for letting me say that.
Oh, well, thank you. But let me talk about Kasich. I don't think that his dissing the thousands who were at that convention was a smart move, whatever he thinks of Donald Trump. But I worry about Ohio. Do you think that Donald can win Ohio?
Oh, sure he can. He's very popular with blue-collar Democrats, and there are a lot of those in Ohio. And by the way, Governor Kasich and his organization in the state are all, everybody who works for Kasich, who works for the state party in Ohio, are working very hard for Donald Trump. And he's not only unleashed them to work for Trump, he's asked them to.
What is Donald going to have to do to win this election? I mean, we all agree that the speech that he gave was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. He spoke to every American. And, you know, Charlie, what I loved most about it was the sensitive moments when he talked about, you know, the mother who lost her child. And then he went off script and he said, I'm so happy that you were cheering when I talked about the LGBTQ community. I mean, you know, that came from his heart. It did. And, you know, that was the Donald Trump that I knew. I mean, you know, a serious, straight-talking, you know, focused, smart, sharp, razor sharp, and just cut to the quick on everything.
Yeah, we got to see the real Donald Trump that I've known for 30 years the other night. But listen, here's how he wins. 25% of the American people like the status quo, the way things are going in Washington with the federal government. 75% don't. Donald demonstrated the other night that he understands the concerns, has solutions to the problems, and that he's the leader who represents change. Now, the Democrats will say, oh, but he's risky change. So this election is going to come down to, among the swing voters, does his view of change, his vision of change, overpower the riskiness stuff that the Democrats will throw at him?
And you know what, Charlie? I think there's another piece. I think the other piece is what happens in America and around the world as we approach that election day. You know, the external events that will impact. You have a president who's saying, you know, the birds are singing and all that stuff. I'm not so sure most Americans feel that way.
They don't. They think he's impotent, and they know that Hillary Clinton is the same thing. If you like the way things are going under Obama, that's what you'll get under Clinton. Donald laid that out. The majority of the American people do not want that.
All right. Charlie Black, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Judge. Thank you.
All right. And Street Justice is coming up, and I'm jumping on a motorcycle. And next, my political panel came back. We're talking about whether GOP goals were reached in Cleveland. Next. Justice, back with me now, my all-star panel, CPAC Chairman, Republican strategist Matt Schlapp, and former aide to Senator Schumer, Chris Hahn. All right, guys, I was stunned when I had that Sanders surrogate, Neil Soroka, who thought it was laughable, all this WikiLeaks stuff. And I got to tell you, I am very offended. Party doesn't matter. But when a group in a political party says, you know, we got to go after this guy and figure out, you know, he skated on saying he has a Jewish heritage. I think I read he's an atheist. This could make several points difference with my people, my Southern Baptist people. So what you've got is, you've got these people trying to jackpot him and trying to mock his heritage. And then there's Jeff Weaver, who is the campaign manager for Bernie Sanders, said that someone has to be held accountable. What do you think, Chris?
This ain't beanbag, Judge. Politics at that level is a knife fight. And that's what happens. People get very passionate.
The DNC is not about politics. It's about the Democratic Party.
Well,
and when you've got the party picking one candidate and making it seem rigged, that's not fair.
You're talking about individuals within the party that felt passionately about
the head of the finance committee in the DNC. That's not some low-level volunteer.
Absolutely not. And they felt very passionately, and that's what happens in politics. I don't know that they never use that information. So where's this going?
What's your take on it, Matt?
I think anti-Semitism is disgraceful and disgusting, and to think that it's at the very top levels of the Democratic National Committee is gross.
That was not anti-Semitism.
It wasn't anti-Semitism.
To say that someone's being an atheist.
No, To say that someone's religion,
That's a use the word. He's a Jew.
Please, Chris, don't defend this.
No. She was saying that Southern Baptists would be very concerned if he was an atheist. That's a very big difference.
Baloney. Okay. Weaver said he's surprised no one in the Democratic Party, this party of all the people, the Big Tent supposedly, has even reached out to him, given the conduct, quote, that was disclosed in the emails. Several of the emails show that DNC staff called Weaver names, including a liar. But let's move on. Let's talk, Matt, about the Republican convention. Was it a success?
Well, you know, the great thing about conventions, you'll get to see it in polls that come out of the next several days. I was there every moment of it. And I have to tell you that I think the Republican Party has very open disagreements with people like Ted Cruz and others. But I think we roll out of Cleveland with a very clear message, and I think people feel very good about Trump. I think they feel very good that with the speech and the reaction to the speech, they feel great about Mike Pence and the platform.
Yeah.
Judge, I really think when you look at everything, it was a home run.
Okay, Chris, your take.
You know, I knew he was a reality star. I didn't think the show he was on was called Fear Factor. I mean, God, I was scared every night. I couldn't sleep for the entire week. The only thing that made me happy was Ivanka's speech, which was very liberal and could have been said at a Democratic national convention.
Well, but Ivanka's speech, if you want to go there, Chris, showed all the differences between Donald Trump's experience, his promotion of women in terms of his company. There are more women executives than men. That's not the case in the Clinton Family Foundation. Everybody gets equal pay. Not the case in the Clinton Family's Foundation. And, you know, the fact that her father has promoted women, whereas Hillary Clinton spent her life trashing them.
Yeah, I don't think Hillary Clinton has spent her life trashing women. I think she's done a lot for women. And if you look at the staff of her campaign...
Give me one example. Give me one example.
Her whole career, she's fought for women and families. Everything she's ever done her entire life.
We got 10 seconds, Matt. Hit it.
Ivanka Trump had a great speech, and it had all conservative themes. She's simply saying women are in the workforce, and with women in the workforce, it's a positive thing, and we ought to have child care needs met. I'm married to a working woman, and I believe in this. And second of all, Hillary Clinton and women, let me just tell you, I don't think it's working out.
Chris Hahn, thank you. Street Justice is next as I hit the streets of Cleveland on a motorcycle yet. Don't go away. You've been waiting for it all night, my very special Cleveland edition of Street Justice, where I meet up with some Bikers for Trump members as they readied for a ride in support of Donald Trump and against some of the protest groups that threatened to disrupt the convention. Take a look. What are you doing here?
Oh, we're coming here to support Donald Trump, of course.
Why are you here today?
To support Donald Trump.
Can you tell us why you're here today? No, I'm asking Donald. He's not answering. All right, you want to tell us why you're here today? Turn around.
I am here to support Donald Trump and do what we can just to give him a warm welcome in our city.
Why are you here?
First of all, support the police department. I'm a retired Cleveland policeman and just love the city. And I don't want people coming in from the outside causing problems.
Are you a former law enforcement?
Yes, I am.
Boy, that's a shock. I could always tell them. What do you think of the fact that, you know, Black Lives Matter say that they're going to come here and protest?
As far as Black Lives Matter is concerned, I don't know their agenda or what their whole purpose is, because we see them destroying things. I mean, to come in and voice your opinion, that's one thing. That's our American right. To go and destroy things, now you're breaking the law.
It seems like everywhere they're at, there's a problem. So for them to say they're not here to cause problems sounds like a crock of doo-doo to me.
I think that the law enforcement community, on a whole, with the 75 or 80 million encounters they have with civilians, and one or two doesn't go the way it's planned, is not an excuse for these people, these cowards, to come out and do what they do. So we're kind of calling them out.
You plead the second as opposed to what? The fifth?
No, we're at the fifth right now.
Do you think that the full carry and the open carry that they have here makes things more safe or less safe?
You know, I'm a proponent of it. I like open carry, but there should be restrictions, especially during the numbers that are down there.
And what about the open carry law in Ohio? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's their constitutional right. I'm a CCW carry. I pack my gun wherever I go.
And what are you packing today?
40 millimeter. Take it everywhere like my MasterCard. I don't leave home without it.
You think Donald can make it?
I think it takes a businessman's approach, and again, I think a no-nonsense approach, and say you're going to do this and you're going to be held accountable, and there aren't any excuses.
All right, you got NRA on your hat? Are you former law enforcement?
No,
military?
I'm not. I was a funeral director for 40 years.
What do you think of America today?
I think it's going in the wrong direction. We're overtaxed, overregulated, and that's one of the reasons I had to get out of business.
Really?
Just couldn't keep the thing going.
Boy, but I heard the people were dying to get to your place.
You're riding with me on the back.
How far?
15, 20 minutes.
That's it, right?
Relax, there's a piece of paper in here.
Sign what, that I'm not going to sue you?
That you're not going to distract me while I'm driving.
We're not responsible if you get hurt.
Oh, I can't sue you?
You can't sue.
Is this my helmet? That's it. How do I look?
Look good.
Yeah, lie to me.
Oh, it's black. It matches your outfit.
Are you a good driver?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure?
Thousands of miles logged in.
Yeah, well, I don't have thousands left. I don't want to end it now.
There'll be a lot of guys that might want to agitate you. Our first line of defense is dialogue and diplomacy. You get into a sticky situation, let's just try to stall the situation until law enforcement can come and do their job.
And now some of my favorite pictures from the great week that we had at the convention in Cleveland. That's coming up. I want you to see some of the pictures we took in Cleveland at the convention. Cops and law enforcement did a phenomenal job from all over the country. They were from an amazing number of states. That's me at the Harley-Davidson dealership in Cleveland. And that's at the Rock and Roll Harley. And that's me gearing up to get on that bike with my hat on. I took it off later. And that's me on a bike with my high heels. I didn't bring my boots. And I got, you know what that says? It says Hillary for Prison 2016. I got 65,000 likes on my Facebook page. That is one of the highest liked things. Mark Geist, Oz from 13 Hours, and Antonio Sabato. That's in the green room before we went on the floor for the speeches. The Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell. And my friends Jerry and Bob Shapiro and Governor Rick Perry there. Anyway, thanks for joining us. That's it for us tonight. Friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. Thanks so much for watching us tonight. Greg.